The sound of tearing fabric cut through the crowded bar like a gunshot. Everyone froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Pool cues hung suspended in mid-strike. Every eye in Murphy's bar turned toward the corner booth where a massive biker had just grabbed the waitress's shirt and ripped it clean down the shoulder. Sarah stood there, trembling, her uniform torn, exposed. But it wasn't what anyone expected to see underneath that made the entire bar fall into stunned silence. It was the violent patchwork of purple and black bruises covering her shoulder and collarbone, some fresh, some fading to yellow at the edges. A map of pain written across her skin. The biker's name was Marcus. He was 6'4", 300 pounds of leather and muscle, with a graying beard that reached his chest and arms covered in faded tattoos. He'd been coming to Murphy's for the past 3 months, always ordering the same thing, black coffee and whatever was left of the meatloaf special. He never caused trouble, never spoke much, just left a crumpled 20 on the table and disappeared into the night on his thundering Harley. Sarah had served him dozens of times. She was 26, working double shifts to make ends meet, always with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She had that kind of careful cheerfulness that people develop when they're used to hiding something painful. Marcus had noticed the long sleeves even in summer. The way she flinched when people moved too quickly. The makeup that couldn't quite cover the faint discoloration on her cheekbone. Tonight, she'd reached across to refill his coffee when her sleeve rode up just enough. Marcus saw the finger-shaped bruises circling her wrist like a grotesque bracelet. Something inside him snapped. He didn't think. He just moved. His massive hand shot out and grabbed her collar, and before Sarah could scream, before anyone could react, he yanked hard. The fabric gave way with that terrible ripping sound, and suddenly everyone could see what Sarah had been hiding for months. "Call the police," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the silent bar. "Now." Sarah's face crumbled. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she tried to cover herself with her arms, but Marcus gently caught her hands. "Don't," he said softly. "Don't hide anymore. Not anymore." The bartender, Joe, a Navy veteran in his 50s, was already on the phone. 2 regulars, both retired cops, moved toward the door without being asked, blocking the exit. Everyone understood instantly what was happening. Everyone knew someone like Sarah. Everyone had either been Sarah or known someone who was. "He'll kill me," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. When he finds out, he won't touch you again," Marcus said. His voice was gentle now, almost tender, completely at odds with his appearance. "I promise you that. We all promise you that." He looked around the bar, and one by one, people nodded. The construction workers in their dusty jeans. The businessman still in his suit. The elderly couple who came every Friday. The young mothers having a rare night out. All of them stood up. What happened next would become the stuff of local legend. While they waited for the police, Marcus did something unexpected. He removed his leather jacket and draped it carefully over Sarah's shoulders. It swallowed her small frame completely, and somehow that made her seem even more fragile and precious. Then he sat back down at his booth and started talking. "I had a sister," he said quietly, but his voice carried. "Her name was Jenny. Beautiful girl. Married her high school sweetheart. We all thought he was a good guy. Went to church, had a good job, said all the right things." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Took us 3 years to realize what was happening. She hid it so well. Always had an excuse. Always protected him." Sarah sank into the booth across from him, clutching his jacket closed. "One night, she called me at 2 in the morning. She was in the emergency room. He'd broken her arm in 3 places and fractured her skull. She finally pressed charges." Marcus's voice broke. "But he made bail. 3 days later, he showed up at her work. She never made it home." The bar was absolutely silent. Several people were openly crying. "That was 12 years ago," Marcus continued. "And I swore on her grave that if I ever saw someone hurting like she hurt, hiding like she hid, I wouldn't turn away. I wouldn't mind my own business. I wouldn't wait until it was too late." Sarah was sobbing now, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. "I didn't know how to leave," she gasped out between tears. "Every time I tried to plan it, he'd be sweet for a while and I'd think maybe this time would be different. And then it would start again. And I have nowhere to go, no money saved that he doesn't know about, no family nearby." "You have somewhere now," said a voice from across the bar. It was Rita, who owned the flower shop 2 blocks over. "My spare bedroom. It's yours for as long as you need it. I can get you connected with the women's shelter downtown," added Michelle, a social worker who'd stopped in for a drink after work. "They have legal resources, counseling, job placement assistance. My cousin's a lawyer," someone else called out. "Does restraining orders pro bono." "I work at the bank," said another voice. "We can set you up with an account in just your name." Something safe. One by one, the people of Murphy's Bar stepped forward with offers of help. Clothing, furniture, job leads, childcare. Sarah had a 6-year-old daughter staying with a neighbor. Someone offered to help her move out while her boyfriend was at work. 2 guys volunteered to be there just in case he showed up. By the time the police arrived, Sarah had a phone full of new contacts and a concrete plan for her escape. She had a community that had been there all along, invisible until someone had the courage to tear away the curtain of silence. The police took Sarah's statement. They took photos of her injuries. They issued an emergency protective order on the spot. And when they asked how this all came to light, every single person in Murphy's Bar told the same story. The waitress had confided in them, and they'd encouraged her to come forward. Marcus never took credit. He slipped out while Sarah was talking to the officers, climbing onto his bike and riding off into the night. But Sarah knew. She found him 3 weeks later, living in a small apartment above a motorcycle repair shop across town. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt with short sleeves. No bruises. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "You saved my life." Marcus shook his head. "You saved your own life. You just needed someone to see you first. Why did you risk it?" Sarah asked. "Grabbing me like that, I could have pressed charges. Everyone could have thought the worst of you." Marcus looked at her steadily. "Because some things are more important than what people think. And because my sister didn't get a second chance. But you did. That's all that matters." Sarah hugged him then, this giant bear of a man who looked terrifying but had the gentlest heart she'd ever known. And she understood something profound. Sometimes the people who look the most dangerous are the ones who've known danger intimately, who've lost someone to it, and who would do anything to prevent someone else from experiencing that same loss. Murphy's Bar put a small plaque behind the counter after that night. It simply said, "We see you. We believe you. You're not alone." And Sarah still works there, but now she wears short sleeves, and her smile finally reaches her eyes.